Awesome.
This is gonna be fun. Make sure it says it's recording. It does. Yay! We made it work. Only 30 minutes late, guys. We're totally fine.
That's like a pandemic 5 minutes. It's totally.
You know what? And honestly, I've got to say, in the over 250 virtual events, I'm pretty sure this is only like the second time my laptop's decided not to work. So,
that's not bad. That's pretty good, actually.
I'm not a math guy, but that seems to check out.
Yeah, it does. It seems to work. So guys, we're here with Taylor from Long Road Distillers and Emily Henry, author of Beach Read, but her new release just came out, just hit the shelves, guys, brand spanking new. People We Meet on Vacation. We're so excited to have her joining us today. We're doing something a little different with our Currently Reading with Cocktails. Long Road is partnering with us this time, and they're actually making these really sweet to-go cocktail kits. What do you say, like 6 people it serves, Taylor?
Yeah, it'll serve 6 people. I mean, if you're like me, maybe it's closer to 3 in your household, but it makes a beautiful afternoon's worth of cocktails for you.
Some beautiful Long Road bourbon here. It comes with the raspberry. So Taylor and his team, we shipped off these titles and we said, hey, here's the titles of these books. Maybe look into them a little bit, but here's the description. And they came back with, for Emily's pairing, the Poolside Companion. And each cocktail kit also comes with these perfect little, mine's a little wrinkly now, recipe cards. So you can make it right along with us at home. But Taylor, do you want to talk to us a little bit about this and what this is, what we're doing?
I sure do. Yeah, we when we got the list of books in, we were like playing around because it's starting to warm up. This is like our first week of like solid 80-degree weather here in Grand Rapids. We're pretty pumped about it. And but there's so many different flavors that you can go with during summer, like your herbal gardens, like with your basil lemonades and stuff like that. But Samantha gave us a little tidbit that Emily enjoyed her whiskey. So I was just like, well, you know what? Well, then that's the vein that we're going to stick in. And when we're relaxing outside, as Samantha's doing right now in that beautiful sunshine, or if you're by the pool, or if you happen to be going on vacation, doing something a little bit on the fruitier side, a little bit refreshing. And so that's kind of the angle we took. So we came up with the Poolside Companion today. Everything that came in your kit, we made here at Long Road in Grand Rapids on the Leonard Street location. So we got your fresh made raspberry jam that we made in-house. We have the lime juice that we squeezed ourselves. We gave you whole limes in your kit.
You did. Home. I cut them up and I juiced them myself.
See, ready to go. See, I had someone put in the work for me, so I cheated. I did kind of Martha Stewarted it for myself today, so I hope that counts. But and then we have the orange blossom water as well. So
guys, look at this little tiny bottle. Like, give me in the comments like all the things we can do with this bottle because it's killing me. Okay.
Well, we did the cocktail kits thing all through the shutdowns and things, so people could enjoy Long Road cocktails at home. And it became our shtick. But Arteta's Lemonade is one of our best sellers, and it comes with these with the rose water in it. And at the same time, we were rolling out the hand sanitizer, and people kept thinking we were sending them hand sanitizer samples. And I was just like, oh, no. So your hands are no cleaner. They smell like roses now. So I guess that's partially a win.
They smell good.
Yeah, no, it was a minor win, but no. So that's going to have your orange blossom in there for you today. So my jokes get a little bit more interesting. Emily's got the interesting content. I just have the drinks. So my jokes get better if you start drinking. So I'm going to quick make a cocktail here. Feel free to follow along with the video. But it's a fairly simple cocktail. It's shaken, not stirred. So we're not doing the martinis or anything like that. We're doing it James Bond style, shaking it up. And that's to disperse like those fruits evenly. For those of you who don't have your fancy shakers at home, 2 mist-sized cups are going to work just fine. Like I grab this pint glass right here that plenty of you have at home, probably with some bar logo on it from where you stole it from that one time you had too many day drinking. That's going to work just fine as well. So we're going to just roll with that. So first we're gonna have our, if you wanna measure, if you haven't measured it out like I have already, you're gonna have your 1.5 ounces of bourbon.
Is that enough?
Oh yeah. And again, these are gonna be your bar measurements. I'm not judging anyone for that little extra if you're making it at home or if you are by the pool. You're also gonna have your 1 ounce of raspberry jam. You're gonna have your 0.75 ounces of lime juice. And once that's all together, hold on to your orange blossom water. We're not doing anything with that yet. But if you wanna take your ice and get it in that glass there, we're then gonna put your different size glass on top of there and then just give it a nice old shake. And once you got that nice condensation on the outside, for those of you who don't have your fancy strainers at home, and not everyone has that set up. If you just take that smaller glass and put it into the smaller one, that's going to work as a strainer for you just fine. Strain it in there. There we go. We're going to want to top off with ice. Now, some people are like, I just got rid of the ice. Why are you having me put new ice in there? That seems redundant. Well, I will tell you, Susan at home, that's going to be because all that ice that we just had in there, it's breaking up, it's melting quickly, it's smaller pieces, and that waters down and weakens your drink faster. So in order to maintain the flavors, to keep your drink a little stiffer, we put it on fresh ice. Last but not least, you have that little bit of orange blossom in your little spray. Give that guy a little bit of a spritz there. And there you have the Poolside Companion, which is ready to sip on at the pool while you're reading the people we meet on vacation. So
Smells delightful. And can I put a lime in there? Is that okay? Is that a thing?
Oh, that is totally it. You know what? I'm all about the choose your own adventure. So there we go.
Cheers, Taylor.
Cheers.
Cheers, Emily.
I'm so jealous right now. My throat is like closing up from wanting that.
Oh my God.
I really
tastes like a Jolly Rancher with a shot of bourbon.
Ooh,
oh yeah.
I really thought it was just a coincidence at first. I was like, how unlikely that somebody would just decide to make their poolside drink with bourbon, which is what I would always go for. And now I'm just like, maybe I drink a little too much if people know.
Yeah, a little bird told us.
Maybe I talk about it too much.
You know what? I would remember something like that in a conversation. My background is in food and beverage, and when someone brings up bourbon or whiskey or good cocktails,
yeah,
I'm there.
I'm terrible with names. I'm decent with faces, but I can remember anyone's drink order.
Wow.
And that's just something that sticks with you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Taylor. That was fantastic. Emily, let's talk a little bit about people we meet on vacation.
Cool.
Do you want to take a minute and give your elevator pitch?
Sure. We'll see how it goes because I don't have a cocktail in my system to make me funnier. But yeah, so People We Meet on Vacation came out a week and 2 days ago. Very excited about it. It is the story of Alex and Poppy, who are two unlikely best friends. They meet in college. They have nothing in common, but they strike up this friendship that's really important to both of them. And they're sort of like they're each other's lifeboat person. They decide that every summer they're going to take a weekly or a week-long vacation with each other. And so even though their lives kind of go off in different directions, every summer they get together to take this trip. And it's like the highlight of their year. Until they have this mysterious falling out. So the book picks up 2 years after they've stopped speaking, and Poppy kind of has everything that she thought she wanted. She has this glamorous travel writing career. She has the apartment of her dreams, all this stuff, but she is just unhappy, and she decides that the thing that's missing for her is this friendship that she lost. So she convinces Alex to take one last summer trip, and she's kind of hoping to fix things between them and to make them go back to before their big fight. And so the book follows this trip that's basically like the vacation from hell, interspersed with all of their previous trips for the 10 years that they were traveling together. So it's like, I did write it before COVID hit. I wasn't actually like doing that to like relieve my stress from being home, but it ended up being like a really fun thing to be editing and working on when I wasn't going anywhere, because it absolutely is just like a vacation in book form, or at least that's like what I wanted it to be, or 11 vacations in book form, really.
I love it. What was your inspiration for it?
There were a few different things that kind of came into play at the same time. And I feel like that's sort of what happens with all of my books. The big thing was I usually start with setting. And so I was trying to figure out like where would be like a fun, vacation-y, warm place to set this next book. And all the places that I was thinking about were places that I have only really experienced as a visitor. And I felt like I didn't feel like I could pull off like being a local in any of those places without like some significant research, months spent in a place.
Darn.
So, yeah, right. It just wasn't an option. And actually, it really became not an option by the time the book was kind of settled. But yeah, so I was just trying to figure out where I wanted to be setting these characters. And I also kind of knew I wanted to play with structure in a way, but didn't have like any great ideas there. And so then when I was like kind of listing all of these places that I love traveling, I started thinking like, well, I could just like, take the characters there as visitors, because that's the only way I really know these places. And at that point I was just like, why not just make the entire book vacations? And there's the structure. So everything else kind of came out of that question about setting, which is like pretty common for me. But also like I never really play with structure in that way, and my books are usually pretty straightforward in like as far as their chronology and all that. So yeah, it was kind of like, I feel like it's very much like in the same family as Beach Read, but also kind of has its own thing going on too.
So I have to tell you, I love Poppy as a character. I think she has such an interesting storyline just in general. She's also seems to be a little extra, which I can appreciate. What would you say you're more of an Alex or a Poppy?
I am definitely more of a Poppy. And I think, like when I was kind of preparing for the book to come out, I was just like, everyone's going to hate Poppy. Everyone's going to hate Poppy. But I actually think that people really relate to her in a way that like I wasn't totally expecting. Like I think a lot of bookish people are more of Alex's, and there are things I relate to with Alex. I'm definitely more neurotic and like controlling than Poppy is probably. But yeah, I mean, I just feel like that's like Poppy is such a vibe. Like she's a real person who's like the kind of people I'm drawn to are very much extra in that same way that you were saying. So yeah, I'm Poppy through and through.
Yeah, it's a joke in the office that anything bright, flashy, glittery is Sam Central, and it's a little extra. So it's
I
all
love
good.
that. Yeah, you're invited on vacation with Poppy.
Yeah, I hang out with her all the time. So in the book, one of the lines, I think it's at the beginning, where they talk about happiness and being truly happy. A way to find your happiness is retracing your steps to a time you were happy. What was a time that was truly happy for you?
Ooh, I think one of the things, it's kind of funny because I think whenever I'm writing, like it's hard for it to not become kind of meta to me. Like when I'm writing, I'm thinking so much about writing. And I think that's why so many of my characters are writers too, is just because it's like, it just becomes this like kind of spiral that goes on forever. But I kind of was thinking when I came up with like Poppy's internal journey or her emotional arc, I was thinking back to like kind of the blissful feeling and excitement of before I like got published, when I was just writing for fun. And I had this excitement, like someday people are going to like read my words and it's going to change everything and whatever. And, just like after I published, like I started realizing like, this is great. And it's kind of the dream, I'm living the dream, but at the same time, nothing really compares to that feeling when you're just doing the thing that you want to be doing. When I was just writing for myself and I didn't know if anyone was ever going to read it. And I just think there's a weird kind of bliss to making something only for yourself and having no idea where it like fits into the world. I don't know. It's like, I mean, that's kind of a strange answer maybe, but I just, when I think about some of my most intense feelings of joy that I've had, a lot of them, it is funny, but it's just like excitement that I had while I was working on a particular book. Like, it's just an incomparable feeling. It's like the best thing in the entire world.
Oh, I love that. So this book is obviously centered around a lot of traveling. And like you said, you've been to a lot of places as a visitor. Do you have a particular spot that's your favorite?
I have to say Lake Michigan, right?
No.
Lake Michigan is one of my favorites. I miss Lake Michigan so much. I haven't been since the pandemic. So that actually is one of my favorites because the beaches are just like unparalleled. I really feel that way. There's just something special and different compared to like the ocean. But I also really, really, really love Northern California, which Poppy and Alex do go to. I love that there's ocean there, but there are mountains and there are redwoods all within like a really small distance, and wine country vineyards. I really just like feel like that's kind of the intersection of every kind of landscape in the world, is just sort of like, well, here, we'll put it all right here touching in Northern California. So I'm also really excited to get back out that way.
That's awesome. Taylor, have you been on any good trips in the last 2 years?
You know, like, it's great we have to say 2 years ago, because like in the last year, it's like, well,
Like, you better not have been on any great trips in the last year.
Yeah. Yeah. And then if they start oversharing about a great trip they decide, you kind of go, oh, yeah, no, I would say, I did a lot of hiking through the pandemic. That got me through it. I discovered Hocking Hills in Ohio. That's just like, you're surprised, you're like, this beautiful areas in Ohio. So I did a lot of those trips. 2 years ago, I did my first Vegas trip ever and loved that to no end. So I feel like Vegas is polarizing. Either you love it or hate it. I'm one of those people that ended up loving Vegas. So I'm itching to go back.
I love the food in Vegas.
The food in the shows. I had like I don't gamble. Sometimes if there's a super flashy slot machine, that'll wrangle me in for like 2 minutes. But like we just went and did show after show and just ate our way through Vegas. And that's what I feel like, if you're doing it right, then that's what you're doing.
Absolutely. And you're right. Like Michigan, Emily, is amazing. It's stunning. I think we totally take it for granted in Michigan that it's just, for me, it's an hour that's there. And I'm always like, no, I need to go to the ocean. Constantly. Awesome. So what's next for you, Emily? Are you working on anything else that you can share, or maybe you can't share?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Every time I like have answered this question so many times and never once have thought to like email and be like, hey, what am I allowed to say? So every time I'm just sort of like talking around it. I am working on another book. It's in the same vein as my first two. It's slotted to come out next summer, I believe. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely thematically similar. It is really like book centric in a way that Beach Read was, but not the same exact way. And hopefully like summery and romantic, and in the way that People We Meet on Vacation was sort of my like loose homage to When Harry Met Sally. My new book is like a much, much, much looser homage to You've Got Mail, in a way that like absolutely no one will know why I say that, but in my heart, that's the truth.
That's amazing. Shop Around the Corner, actually, I saw when I was really little, and that was actually my favorite. It's got Judy Garland in it.
Yeah.
And that's what You've Got Mail is based off of. So I have a special place in my heart for those storylines. So that's awesome.
I love both of those movies so much. And they're both, or Shop Around the Corner is like, is it a Christmas movie, or do I just think all black and white movies are Christmas movies?
I think there's an element of Christmas in there because I know there's snow.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's it. There's snow. It's Christmas.
I love it. I know. I think they do like the good old summertime song, so I know there's summer in it too.
Right. Okay.
But anyways, wonderful. Real quick, why romance? I forgot to ask that before the last question. Why romance? What drug you into this world?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I wasn't like a kid who grew up, there's always like the people who were just like, I was reading my mom's paperbacks or whatever. I started writing romance before I really started reading it. I started writing it in 2016, beach read, like it was the first real introduction I had. And I just kind of wanted to be making something nice. I was like dealing with a lot of anxiety and the world just seemed really dark and scary. And the genres that I normally had gravitated toward were just really overwhelming me. And it just felt like everything I picked up, I would just be like, this is going okay. And then like a few pages in, I'd be like, nope, can't handle this. And so I started working on Beach Read just as this little like gift to myself to just do something that felt nice. And I always had been such a huge fan of rom-com movies, but I hadn't really read romance. So I just wrote that book, like didn't tell anyone about it. It was just kind of a break between other manuscripts that I was working on. And it was so fun. And then like a couple years later, I sort of started watching the rom-com book world blow up and become this like popular thing again. Maybe it always had been, but I was noticing it kind of seemed to have this renaissance happening. And so I like emailed my agent and was like, by the way, I also wrote a romance a couple of years ago. Like, do you think that's something we could sell? Like, do people want that? Seems like they do. And she recommended The Hating Game to me by Sally Thorne. And I read that and was just like hooked and just started reading so much romance. And, I think now it was like, I started writing it because I was kind of in my dark place. And I feel like people now are reading it more than ever, or people who were kind of intimidated by like the old school covers or just didn't really know what to think of the genre are really like reaching for it now in a big way, probably because the world has been so nuts. But that's been like, just like now we can all share this thing that has brought me so much joy and it makes me so happy.
I love that you wrote this not knowing what it would become. Probably both of these books, not knowing what it would become. And especially during a pandemic when we're all looking for happiness and joy within writing, it is a nice vacation retreat to go to your books during this time. So thank you so much for writing them.
Thank you for reading them and for having me and for introducing me to this cocktail that I'm going to make a really bad version of later.
I love it. All right, we are going to be back next week with Currently Reading with Cocktails. We will post, sorry, not next week, next month. Oh my goodness. Next week, we will post the book and the cocktail, and you can order your cocktail kits and get ready to join us. Thank you so much, Taylor from Long Road Distillery, and Emily Henry, author of People We Meet on Vacation. This has been lovely. I appreciate your time. And my drink's almost gone, but cheers.
Cheers.
All right. Have a great night, everybody. Bye-bye.
You as well. Bye.